great person from the satellite industry. Clay, I'm going to try to make you blush a little bit before you speak. And someone who helped pull this event together. And he is going to show a little bit of a presentation on drawing his life as he tells his life story. I think you're all going to really enjoy it. So ladies and gentlemen, Clay Mowry.
I work in an industry that is filled with people that are space geeks. These are people that grew up wanting to be astronauts and astrophysicists. They grew up wanting to build things and go into space and travel. I am not a space geek. I did not grow up wanting to go to outer space, right? I'm a little bit more nanu than live long and prosper, if you know what I mean, okay? I remember my first meeting in the government with the space industry, and I'm there with a guy from NASA, and he cracks to the side and he says, "These are not the droids you're looking for." Everybody in the room cracks up, and I'm going, what's that reference from? What's going on with this guy, right? Okay, so let me start with my career from the beginning, okay? I was born and raised in upstate New York in a very small town called Schenectady. Now, Schenectady is an Indian word. It's a little bit hard to spell, excuse me. Most people think it's near Skinny Atlas, which it's not. That's the Finger Lakes region, okay? But that's where I'm from. It's a great town. It used to be called the city that lights and hauls America. It was home to American Locomotive, and it was where Thomas Edison founded the General Electric Company, right? It's filled with engineers, with metallurgists, with scientists, people working on nuclear programs. And these are fantastic people. These are all my friends' parents, right? And I get to be with these people every day, and they're the kind of people that can design anything, they can build anything, they can fix anything. And if something's broken, they're going to draw you a little diagram on graph paper with a little cross-section, right? And they're going to explain to you exactly how it works. But they instilled in me a real sense of curiosity. Okay, so I don't have those kind of math chops, right, to be an engineer. So I decided to go to Ohio, to a small liberal arts college called Ohio Wesleyan University. It's dead center in the state of Ohio. And I got a degree in politics and government and a minor in economics management. It was a great school, and I got a tremendous education there in liberal arts. Now, one moment from my college education that sticks with me, however, is January 28th of 1986. And unfortunately, on this moment is when the Space Shuttle Challenger tragedy happened. And I was in the Memorial Union Building watching it unfold on television. Now, this was a tragic event, but fortunately, today, we have the Challenger Center organization that's devoted to STEM education research, and they're carrying on the legacy of those brave astronauts. Now, I graduated with a degree in politics. Where am I going to do? I'm going to move to Washington, D.C., right? So I got a job on Capitol Hill as an intern paying $300 a month, not much, and a job waiting tables at Armand's Pizzeria. Had to make the ends meet and pay the rent, okay? And after about 8 months of doing that, I said, I got to move out of Washington. I got to try my hand in campaign politics. So I talked my way into a job in New Hampshire. I moved up north to work on a presidential primary, and soon I was the assistant director for the campaign, opening offices, working with Secret Service, and running around the state. My guy lost, okay? So I decided to apply to business school and go back to school and get an MBA because the politics thing wasn't working out. Now, I applied to 5 schools. I got into 4, and 1 school waitlisted me, Georgetown University. So I hopped on an airplane from New Hampshire. I flew down to D.C. I got an appointment with the dean, and I said, look, you want me in this school. I got in everywhere else I applied to, but not here. But this is really where I want to go. And if you let me in, you will not be disappointed. I'm going to do a great job. You're really going to appreciate me when I'm here. So he said, go take a walk for 20 minutes, come back, I'll give you a decision. I came back, and he said, guess what, you're in. But you never took college-level calculus. You got to go back to school and get that class under your belt, and then we'll let you into Georgetown. So I had to go back to my math teacher from high school. I hadn't taken math in 6 years, right? And I had to study math. Now, I took classes during the night for calculus, and I worked in a box factory during the day building corrugated containers. I had to make some money to pay for my tuition for business school. So it was a great summer. I worked my butt off. I relearned math. I went back and did this. I got a C- on my final exam. I'm in Georgetown University. That's passing grade, right? Fantastic, right? So I go to Georgetown. I majored in international business and marketing. It was a great school. I really opened my horizons. I got to meet tremendous people from all over, and I really got hooked on doing global business, right? Now, I was doing a case competition for the marketing club down in North Carolina at Wake Forest University, and the guys putting on the conference, they noticed me. They invited me in for an interview. I did an interview with Planters Lifesavers. They said, we want to hire you. You're going to do candy and snack food sales in the Midwest for us. This is going to be great. You're going to be a brand manager. I was like, how long does it take for me to do the international stuff? I said, well, it'd be about 7 years. So I told him, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to refocus my career and go global. Now, I'm from upstate New York, so the most exotic place I had ever really been was Canada. Right? It's a little cold up there. People are really polite, unless you're at a hockey game. But it was it's a great place. I'm not down on Canada, but not so global, not so different from the US. Now, I did study between my first and second year of business school at Oxford University, and it gave me a little flavor for what it's like to be overseas, to work in different cultures, and to be international. And so I said, I've got to figure out how to take what I've learned and to go global, right? So I had a plan, right? I applied to a program called the Presidential Management Intern Program. Now, it's typically filled with people who went to the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, or the Foreign Service Program at Georgetown, or Princeton, the Woodrow Wilson School. But I thought, if I can get into this internship program, I can work for an agency, a federal agency that does global trade, right? And that's going to give me the opportunity to go overseas and travel and do all that stuff. So I landed a job in the Department of Commerce and the International Trade Administration. It was a great opportunity for me. I got to work for the President's Export Council, the Office of Mexico on NAFTA. I got to work for a trade center, and I learned all these great things. But I still didn't have like a career path. I had no industry, no focus. So one day I get an interview with the Office of Aerospace. And the office director says, this is going to be a great job for you. You're going to get to travel all over the world. You're going to get to go to air shows. And you're going to have the space portfolio, right? It's going to be this tremendous, tremendous job for you. And I said, space? You mean like rockets and satellites and stuff like that? And she says, yeah, rockets and satellites. I said, I don't know anything about rockets and satellites. She said, don't worry. You'll figure it out. You'll learn. Now, I took the job. I started reading everything I could about space and satellites. And about 3 months later, I find myself on the U.S. Trade delegation team led by the U.S. Trade Representative's Office that's heading to Moscow to negotiate the new agreement on international launch services with the newly formed Russian space agency, Roscosmos, led by Yuri Koptev. So now here I am, 3 months into this job, in the dark of night in December in Moscow saying, what am I doing? I'm doing rockets. I'm doing something global. This was really cool. It was a tremendous opportunity for me, and I loved it. And I thought, I finally found my home. Now, a few years after that, a friend of mine calls me up and says, hey, they're starting a trade association for the satellite industry. You're the guy. You should really take this job. I said, look, nobody grows up wanting to run a trade association. Right, maybe be an astronaut, but run a trade association? All right, I thought it would be a tremendous opportunity. I thought I'd get to meet the top executives of the industry, so I took the job. And it really was a tremendous opportunity for me. It gave me a lot of personal exposure. I got to go on TV. I got to do radio. I got to be, I joke, I was the spokesmodel for the industry. I got to testify before Congress. And it really broadened my horizons and taught me a lot of things. But I wasn't done yet. Another friend of mine called me up one day and said, hey, you know everybody in the satellite industry. Why don't you come work for the world's leading launch company, Arianespace, right? And I said, well, there's two problems with that. The first is, I'm not a rocket scientist. And the second is, I don't speak French, right? I'd been to France like once in my life before that, right? So he said, don't worry about it. Your job is explaining the technology to customers and to policymakers in Washington. And if you can do that well, then you can get the job. So I took the job, right? And I found myself all of a sudden now traveling to France several times a year, trying to learn French, trying to learn some things about the rocket industry, but a little bit perplexed, right? I made some faux pas here and there, beaucoup de faux pas. Okay, well, who's counting though, right? Okay, but the guys at Arianespace, they knew enough to keep me away from anything that was too dangerous, right? So I wasn't really going to be pushing any buttons or getting myself into too much trouble, right? But it was a great opportunity for me, and I love the job. All right, so I spent the next few years of my life getting to know Arianespace, giving presentations, talking about the rockets. We were transitioning from the Ariane 4 to the Ariane 5 launch system, so it was a really dynamic time. Now, in my first 2 years on the job, we had 2 launch failures. Not something you ever want to wish upon anybody. It was a very difficult time. Also during that time period, this is 2001 to 2003, was the height of the internet bubble. When I took the job, the internet bubble burst. The market for satellites fell down from about 30 satellites being built per year down to less than 10. And it was a really challenging time, I think, for everybody in the industry, for everybody that's at this conference will tell you, if they think back to that time period, they weren't sure what they were doing. Now, for me personally, that internet bubble bursting really started to make me think about whether or not I should stay in the space industry or not. Is this something I should continue to do or something I should move away from? And, I thought long and hard. I talked to my wife about it, and I said, look, I love this. I love rockets. I love satellites. I can't leave this business, but, challenging. This is really going to be a challenging thing in terms of moving forward. And she said, look, you should stick it out. You should stay in there. And so I did. And I stuck it out. I stuck with the job, even though the launch failures and the internet bubble bursting was a hard thing to explain to people. And now here I am, 14 years later in the job, and our Ariane 5 launch vehicle's now flown 70 times in a row, over 12 years, 100% success, and we're back at it, and we're leading the industry again. So it's a tremendous story, and obviously testament to the engineers that I work with to make that vehicle work. Now, it hasn't been boring either over the course of that time. We've introduced other new products and services, the Soyuz vehicle, the Vega vehicle. Last year, I got to work with Google Skybox on the contract to launch their Earth observation satellites. We did the contract with Matt O'Connell's company to do the OneWeb constellation. So it's fun. I get to work on new things, new topic areas, and with new companies. And looking forward, last year, plans were announced to build and launch the Ariane 6 starting in 2020. So that's going to be a great opportunity as well to learn how to sell that vehicle and to be able to reach some new markets for the new launch system here, Ariane 6. So it's been a tremendous opportunity for me. I feel like I have to give something back, though, to the industry. Right? I've been rewarded with all these opportunities and great jobs, but I need to give something back. So I'm a joiner. I've joined a lot of associations. I've been on the leadership organization for a lot of these groups that actually raise money, do scholarships, and give back something to the industry, okay? So a few years ago, I started my own foundation with a bunch of friends of mine, several who are in the room and on the board with me, called the Future Space Leaders Foundation. And we raise money to give grants to young professionals, to go to conferences, to give papers at SGAC, and to give papers at the IAC conferences around the world, and to get the kind of opportunity that I had when I was young, to be able to travel internationally, get that exposure to network, and really make it in this industry. So it's been a great career for me over 20 years. I've loved working in the space business. I've gotten a lot out of it. I hopefully have given something back to it, and hopefully we're going to continue to grow that. So just to let me give you a quick summary of what I think you need to do to succeed. Obviously, confidence, seize opportunities, have a positive attitude, persevere when times look tough, be tenacious, and be optimistic, okay? Those are really my keys for success. Now, let me just say that now I am a space geek. I know what ship did the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs, right? And everybody should know the answer to this before it comes up on the screen. You never heard of the Millennium Falcon? Thank you.